Welcome, dear listener, to tonight's mystery. A tale woven with whispers, secrets, and the quiet brilliance of deduction. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell, so you never miss another peaceful yet thrilling bedtime mystery. Now let's begin our story, Hercule Poirot and the Ghost of Greenhill Estate. Chapter 1. The Whispered Invitation. The autumn wind whispered secrets through the skeletal branches of the elms lining the Thames, as if the river itself conspired to cloak London in a shroud of mystery. It was on such an evening, in the year of our Lord 1927, that Hercule Poirot, the diminutive Belgian detective with the impeccably waxed moustache and the mind sharper than a guillotine's edge, found himself ensconced in his modest yet elegant apartment at Whitehaven Mansions. The fire crackled merrily in the grate, casting dancing shadows that played tricks on the eye, much like the puzzles he so adored unraveling. Poirot adjusted his pince-nez, peering at the Evening Post with the precision of a surgeon. Amid the mundane bills and invitations to tedious soirees, lay an envelope of fine vellum, sealed with a crest that spoke of ancient lineage and faded glory. His gloved fingers, for Poirot abhorred the touch of bare skin on potentially contaminated surfaces, slit it open with a silver letter opener. The missive within was penned in a hand that trembled ever so slightly, as if the writer feared the very words they committed to paper. "Dear Monsieur Poirot," it began, "I implore your assistance in a matter most dire and inexplicable. Greenhill Estate, my ancestral home in the misty moors of Devonshire, is plagued by apparition that defies reason. Heirlooms vanish like smoke, and whispers echo through the halls at midnight. I fear for my sanity, and perhaps my life. Come at once, I beseech you. Yours in desperation, Lord Reginald Harrington." Poirot's egg-shaped head tilted slightly, his green eyes gleaming with that peculiar light that heralded the activation of his little grey cells. A ghost? Bah! Poirot did not believe in such nonsense. The supernatural was but a veil for human folly, greed, or malice. Yet the plea intrigued him. Devonshire's moors were a tapestry of legends, hounds from hell, spectral coaches, and Greenhill Estate had its own sordid history, whispered in the clubs of Mayfair. A tragic death a century past, a lady in white who wandered the grounds, lamenting a lost love. He rang for his valet George, who appeared with the silent efficiency of a well-oiled machine. "George, pack my valise. We depart for Devonshire on the morrow, and include the heavy overcoat. The moors are treacherous in autumn." The train journey the next day was a symphony of clattering rails and billowing steam, carrying Poirot through landscapes that grew wilder with each passing mile. As the urban sprawl gave way to rolling hills and fog-shrouded valleys, he pondered the case. Lord Harrington was a reclusive widower, heir to a fortune built on colonial spices, and now dwindled by poor investments. Rumours spoke of eccentric habits, séances in the drawing-room, collections of occult tomes. Was this a genuine haunting, or a clever ruse to mask embezzlement or worse? Alighting at the remote station of Ashmoor, Poirot was met by a chauffeur in a weathered Rolls-Royce, its engine purring like a contented beast. The drive to Greenhill Estate wound through narrow lanes flanked by ancient stone walls, the fog thickening until it seemed a living entity, pressing against the windows. Finally, the manor loomed into view. A Gothic pile of weathered granite, turrets piercing the sky like accusatory fingers, ivy clawing at its facade as if to pull it back into the earth. Lord Harrington awaited on the grand steps, a tall figure swathed in a tweed coat, his face etched with lines of worry that aged him beyond his 50 years. His eyes, shadowed and darting, betrayed a man on the edge. "Monsieur Poirot, thank heavens you've come. The ghost, it struck again last night." Poirot bowed slightly, his moustache twitching. "Lead on, milord. Hercule Poirot is at your service. But first, the details, if you please. Precision is the key to unlocking any enigma." They entered the vast hall, where a chandelier dripped with crystal tears, illuminating portraits of stern ancestors whose eyes seemed to follow every movement. Harrington's voice echoed as he recounted the tale. "It began 3 months ago, after my wife's passing. At first, mere whispers, names called in the dead of night. Then, objects disappeared. A diamond brooch, a gold pocket watch from my grandfather. Last week, the family Bible vanished from the library, only to reappear in the attic open to a passage on damnation." Poirot's gaze swept the room, noting the dust motes dancing in the light, the faint scent of lavender masking something earthier, perhaps mildew from hidden damp. "And the ghost? Describe it, s'il vous plaît." "A lady in white, translucent as mist. She glides through the walls, moaning of betrayal. My staff have seen her. My niece, Eliza, swears it's the spirit of Lady Arabella, who died here in 1823, poisoned by her lover." As if on cue, the household assembled. Eliza Harrington, a vivacious young woman with fiery red hair and eyes that sparkled with unspoken secrets. The butler, Mr. Graves, a stoic figure whose ramrod posture hid a limp from some old war wound. Mrs. Croft, the housekeeper plump and fluttering like a startled hen. And young Tom, the groundskeeper, whose calloused hands and averted gaze suggested more than mere servitude. Poirot interrogated them with gentle persistence, his questions like needles probing for truth. Eliza spoke of hearing footsteps in empty corridors. Graves admitted to finding doors locked from within, only to open to vacant rooms. Mrs. Croft whispered of cold spots that chilled the soul. Tom muttered about lights in the abandoned wing. Dinner was a tense affair in the dining room, where silver candelabras flickered, casting elongated shadows that danced like phantoms. Poirot savoured the roast pheasant, but his mind feasted on subtleties. A locket at Eliza's throat, engraved with initials not her own. A candle that guttered unnaturally, as if breathed upon by invisible lips. Harrington's trembling hand as he poured the port. As the clock struck 10, a low wail echoed from upstairs, freezing all in place. "It begins!" Harrington gasped. Poirot rose, his compact frame radiating authority. "Fear not! Hercule Poirot does not flee from shadows. We shall investigate." They ascended the grand staircase, the wood creaking underfoot like protesting bones. In the upper gallery, the air grew colder, a draught whispering through cracks. There, at the end of the hall, a figure materialized, ethereal, draped in white, gliding toward them with arms outstretched. Eliza screamed. Graves reached for a poker. But Poirot stepped forward, his eyes narrowing. "Halt, apparition! Reveal your secrets!" The figure paused, then dissolved into the fog seeping through an open window. Poirot hurried to the spot, his fingers tracing the sill. A thread of white gauze caught on a nail, tangible, man-made. "Mon Dieu," he murmured, "not a ghost, but a charade. Someone plays at hauntings for reasons most earthly." Harrington paled. "But why? Who?" Poirot stroked his moustache. "That, my lord, is what I shall discover. The little grey cells, they are already at work. Tomorrow we delve deeper into this web of deception." As the household retired, uneasy but hopeful, Poirot lingered by the fire in his guest chamber. The estate's secrets pulsed around him, alive with possibility. A misplaced locket, A flickering candle. These were breadcrumbs in a trail of intrigue. The night deepened, fog pressing against the panes like eager spectators, and Poirot smiled faintly. The game was afoot, and no phantom could outwit the master detective. Yet, as sleep claimed him, a faint whisper seemed to echo in his dreams. "Beware the shadows of Greenhill." Was it the wind or something more? Poirot dismissed it. Reason would prevail. But deep in the man's heart, the true enigma stirred, waiting to unfold. Chapter 2. Shadows in the Gallery. The first light of dawn pierced the heavy drapes of Poirot's chamber like tentative fingers, rousing him from a slumber undisturbed by spectral dreams. He rose with his customary precision, dressing in a tailored suit that bespoke elegance amid the estate's brooding decay. Breakfast was a solitary affair in the morning room, where weak sunlight filtered through grimy panes, illuminating a spread of kippers and toast that Poirot eyed with mild disapproval. "The English breakfast," he muttered to himself. "It assaults the digestion like a blunt instrument." Lord Harrington joined him shortly, his face haggard from a night of fitful rest. "Did you hear it again, Monsieur Poirot? The whispers, they seemed to call my name." Poirot dabbed his moustache with a napkin. "Whispers, my lord, are but echoes of the living. Today we shall interrogate your household. Secrets, they hide in the shadows of words unspoken." The detective's plan unfolded in the Grand Gallery, a long hall lined with ancestral portraits whose painted eyes held judgments from centuries past. Dust motes swirled in the air like tiny phantoms, and the floorboards groaned underfoot as if protesting the intrusion. Poirot positioned himself at a mahogany table, his notebook open, a fountain pen poised like a weapon. First came Eliza Harrington, her red hair cascading like flames against her emerald gown. She seated herself with a grace that masked unease, her fingers twisting a handkerchief. "Uncle says you've come to banish the ghost, but it's real. I've seen it with my own eyes." Poirot's eyes twinkled. "Describe it again, mademoiselle. Every detail, if you please." She leaned forward, her voice a hushed thrill. "Pale as moonlight, gliding through the east wing. It wore a gown from another era, tattered at the hems. And the eyes? Oh, such sorrowful eyes, pleading for justice." Poirot noted the tremor in her voice, the way her gaze flicked to a nearby portrait of Lady Arabella, the estate's infamous poisoned bride. "And your whereabouts last night? When the apparition appeared?" "In my room, reading, alone." Her cheeks flushed slightly, a tell that Poirot filed away. Next was Mr. Graves, the butler, his uniform impeccable, despite the limp that betrayed old wounds. He stood rigidly, as if at attention. "I've served the Harringtons for 30 years, sir. This ghost, it's unnatural. Doors slam without wind, candles extinguish themselves." Poirot probed gently. "You found the Bible in the attic, oui? Tell me, did you notice anything peculiar about its placement?" Graves hesitated, his stoic facade cracking. It was atop a trunk marked with Lady Arabella's initials, as if placed there deliberately. "A clue, perhaps?" Poirot pressed on. "Your alibi for the vanishings?" "Always in the servants' quarters, sir. Mrs. Croft can vouch." The housekeeper followed. Mrs. Croft, her ample form squeezed into a chair that creaked in protest. She fanned herself with a lace doily, her eyes wide with superstitious dread. "It's the curse, monsieur. Lady Arabella seeks revenge. I felt her cold breath on my neck in the pantry." Poirot smiled indulgently. "Curses are for the feeble-minded, madame. Facts, they are my currency. Where were you during the last incident?" "Preparing tea in the kitchen." Tom was with me. He'd come in from the gardens, muddy boots and all. Young Tom, the groundskeeper, was last, his rough hands fidgeting as he perched on the edge of the seat. Dirt clung to his cuffs, and his eyes darted like a cornered fox. I don't mess with ghosts, sir. I stick to the earth, pruning hedges, tending the roses, but I've seen lights in the tower at odd hours. Poirot leaned in. Lights? From whom? Oh, Tom shrugged. Dunno, but the ivy on the west wall. It's been disturbed, like someone's climbing. As the interrogations concluded, Poirot paced the gallery, his little grey cells whirring like a finely tuned engine. Inconsistencies abounded. Eliza's blush, Graves's hesitation, Croft's exaggeration, Tom's evasion. Motives tangled like the overgrown ivy outside. Inheritance for Eliza, loyalty masking resentment for Graves, perhaps theft for the others. The day waned into evening, the estate cloaked in twilight's purple haze. Harrington, desperate for resolution, proposed a séance. My late wife believed in such things. Perhaps we can summon the spirit and end this. Poirot acquiesced, intrigued. Very well. But remember, my lord, the dead speak only through the living. They gathered in the drawing-room at midnight, candles arranged in a circle on a Ouija board unearthed from the attic. The air hummed with tension as hands linked. Harrington, Eliza, Graves, Croft, Tom and Poirot. His scepticism a palpable force. Mrs. Croft, self-appointed medium, intoned in a quavering voice, Spirit of Greenhill, reveal thyself. What do you seek? The planchette trembled, sliding across the board. Letters formed Betrayal. Eliza gasped. It's her! Lady Arabella! The room grew colder, a draught swirling. Then, in the corner, a translucent figure materialized, a woman in white, her form wavering like heat over coals. She pointed accusingly at the group, a moan escaping her lips. Justice! For the forgotten! Chaos erupted. Croft fainted. Tom bolted upright. But Poirot remained seated, observing the figure's gown, too modern in cut, and the moan, did it echo from the vents? As the apparition faded, Poirot sprang into action. Quickly, to the adjacent room! They burst into the library, where a forged letter lay on the desk, purportedly from Lady Arabella's era, confessing to her own suicide, absolving her lover. But Poirot's keen eye spotted the ink. Fresh, not faded. This is a forgery, he declared. The paper is modern, the script imitated poorly. Someone plants this to redirect suspicion. Eyes turned to Tom, who paled. Not me. I can't even read proper. Poirot examined the letter closer. No, not you. The handwriting. It matches samples from Mrs. Croft's ledger. Madame, explain. Croft, revived, sobbed. I did it to protect the family. The real scandal. Lady Arabella was murdered by her husband for her fortune. If it came out, the estate would be ruined. Poirot nodded. A noble lie, but a lie nonetheless. You are absolved of the hauntings, but not of deception. Relief washed over the group, a momentary clarity piercing the fog of fear. Harrington exhaled. Then the ghost is still a mystery, Poirot said, but look, behind the bookshelf, a seam in the panelling. With a push, a hidden passage yawned open, dark and musty, leading into the estate's bowels. Dust-laden air rushed out, carrying whispers of deeper secrets. What lies? Within, Eliza breathed. Poirot's moustache twitched with anticipation. Enigmas, mademoiselle, and perhaps the heart of this charade. Tomorrow we explore. As the household dispersed, the gallery's shadows lengthened, harbouring promises of revelations yet to come. Poirot retired, his mind a whirlwind of connections. The forged letter had cleared one path, but the passage beckoned to greater darkness. A scandal buried, a treasure hinted, and a perpetrator still shrouded. The game intensified, and Hercule Poirot relished the chase. Chapter 3. The Phantom's Lament. The hidden passage yawned like the maw of some ancient beast, its dank air heavy with the scent of mildew and forgotten time. Hercule Poirot, armed with a lantern that cast flickering beams into the gloom, led the reluctant party deeper into Greenhill Estate's underbelly. Lord Harrington followed closely, his breath ragged, Eliza's eyes wide with a mix of fear and excitement. Mrs. Croft clutched a rosary, muttering prayers. Tom, the groundskeeper, brought up the rear, his lantern swinging like a pendulum. Only Mr. Graves had begged off, citing his limp as unfit for such exploits. "Mon ami," Poirot said to Harrington, his voice echoing off the stone walls. "This passage, it is no accident. It connects the library to where?" They emerged into a cramped chamber, dust-laden and cluttered with relics, yellowed ledgers, tarnished silver, and a portrait of Lady Arabella, her painted gaze piercing even in the dim light. Poirot's little grey cells hummed. This was a repository of secrets, a vault for the estate's sins. "Look here," Eliza whispered, pointing to a pile of papers. Among them, a will, Harrington's late wife's, altered with crude ink strokes to favour an unnamed beneficiary. Harrington gasped, "Stolen! This was in my safe. The ghost must have—" "Non," Poirot interjected, his moustache quivering. "Not a ghost, but hands of flesh. See the smudges? Fresh, from nervous fingers." The discovery ignited a spark. Back in the drawing room, Poirot declared his plan, a reconstruction of the hauntings. "We shall recreate the phantom's visits step by step. In doing so, the truth will reveal itself, like a photograph in the developer." The household assembled at dusk, the estate's halls dimmed to mimic the eerie nights. Candles guttered in strategic spots, their flames dancing to an unseen rhythm. Poirot directed like a maestro. "Mademoiselle Eliza, you shall play the witness in the gallery. Milord, remain in your study. The rest observe from the shadows." As the clock tolled 8, the first haunting commenced. Tom, under Poirot's instruction, triggered a hidden mechanism, a wire pulled from afar, causing a door to slam with a thunderous echo. Mrs. Croft yelped, her hand flying to her chest. "Now, the whisper," Poirot commanded. From a concealed vent, a voice intoned, "Betrayal! Justice!" Eliza, positioned in the gallery, feigned terror. "It's her! Lady Arabella!" But Poirot halted. The charade. "Observe, mes amis. The voice, it carries from this grate, connected to the servants' quarters. Someone speaks into it, masking sabotage." Accusations flew. Croft pointed at Tom. "You, always skulking about." Tom bristled. "Not me, I fix things, not break 'em." Harrington, pale, confessed a fragment. "My wife, she had a lover before we wed. A forbidden romance, hushed up. Perhaps the ghost seeks to expose it." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "Ah, the human heart, it complicates even the spectral. But let us proceed." The reconstruction escalated. In the east wing, where the apparition most often appeared, Poirot rigged mirrors and gauze, demonstrating how a living person could project a ghostly image. See? With light from a hidden lantern, the phantom materializes, ingenious but not supernatural. As the group watched, a real wail pierced the air, not staged but genuine, echoing from the attics. "Spectral sabotage!" Croft cried. They raced upward, Poirot leading with surprising agility. In the attic, amid cobwebs and crates, they found a gramophone, its needle scratching a record of mournful cries. But more, a journal leather-bound and cryptic, tucked beneath. Poirot seized it, his gloved hands flipping pages. Entries from Lady Arabella herself. "My husband suspects nothing. The poison was for the rats, not me, but the lover, he flees with the jewels." "And coded," Poirot murmured, his mind racing. Symbols danced before him, a simple substitution cipher, where A's became Z's, B's Y's, and so on. He deciphered aloud. "The will is hidden in the crypt, betrayed by the faithful servant." Gasps rippled through the group. "Graves!" Harrington exclaimed. "My butler! Could he be descended from Arabella's servant?" Poirot shook his head. "No. Read further. The faithful servant saved me. It was the heir who poisoned. The journal vindicates the loyal your Graves. He is innocent. His limp? From defending the family in the war, non? This entry clears him. The sabotage masks a modern greed." Relief flooded Graves, who had limped up behind them unnoticed. "Thank you, sir. I've only ever served faithfully." The circle narrowed. Suspicions shifted to Eliza. Her red hair like Arabella's in the portrait, her locket engraved with forbidden initials. "You," Harrington accused, "for the inheritance?" Eliza's eyes flashed. "Uncle, how dare you? I loved Aunt Miriam, but yes, the romance, it was hers, rediscovered in letters. I hid them to protect you." Poirot intervened. "Partial truth, mademoiselle. The stolen will, altered to cut you out?" "No, to include a bastard child, perhaps?" Tears welled in her eyes. "No, it was Tom. He and I, we're in love. Forbidden, like Arabella's. He tampered to secure our future." Tom stepped forward, defiant. I did the wires, the whispers for her, but not the thefts. That's someone else's greed." The air thickened with betrayal's tang. Poirot paced, connecting dots. The journal's cipher revealed a map to buried treasure. Arabella's jewels, hidden in the crypt. "The whale's mask digging, we? Someone seeks the fortune." A scuffle erupted. Croft lunged for the journal, her plump facade cracking. "It's mine! My great-grandmother was Arabella's maid, entitled to it." Poirot blocked her. "Madam, your exaggerations, your planted forgeries, they point to you. But the sabotage? Too clumsy for one alone." In a twist, Graves confessed. "I helped her, innocently at first, to scare off intruders. But when I learned of the treasure—" "No," Croft wailed. "It was all for the estate." Poirot's intellect sliced through. "The journal absolves you both of murder, but not mischief. The true perpetrator, the one who stole the will, orchestrated the ghost, remains shadowed." As confessions laced with greed unraveled, the estate exhaled a fleeting peace. Harrington forgave Eliza's romance, blessing her union with Tom. Graves was vindicated, his loyalty shining. Croft, chastened, promised reform. Yet, as night deepened, Poirot lingered in the attic, the journal's final entry nagging. A symbol undeciphered, hinting at a deeper accomplice. The perpetrator's shadow elongated, perhaps Harrington himself, or an outsider. "The lament continues," Poirot whispered to the darkness, "but Hercule Poirot shall silence it." The household retired. Tensions simmered to embers. Revelations had mended some rifts, but the crypt beckoned, its secrets pulsing like a heartbeat. Tomorrow's confrontation loomed, the phantom's true face inching into light. Chapter 4. Echoes of Deception. Thunder rumbled like the growl of an ancient guardian as the storm descended upon Greenhill Estate, transforming the moors into a churning sea of mud and mist. Rain lashed the windows with relentless fury, mirroring the turmoil that had gripped the household since Poirot's revelations in the attic. The air inside hummed with unspoken accusations, each glance a dagger, each silence a confession withheld. Hercule Poirot, undeterred by the tempest, summoned the suspects to the Grand Library, a cavernous room lined with leather-bound tomes that whispered of forgotten lore. Their spines cracked like old bones. "Assemblez-vous, mes amis," Poirot commanded, his voice cutting through the howl of wind like a scalpel. The echoes of deception reverberate no longer in shadows. Tonight, we shatter the illusions. The group huddled around the massive oak table, firelight flickering across their faces. Lord Harrington, his aristocratic features etched with dread. Eliza, her red curls dishevelled, clutching Tom's hand defiantly. Mr. Graves, stoic but watchful. Mrs. Croft, her eyes red-rimmed from tears. And Tom, his rough-hewn strength belying a flicker of unease. Outside, lightning cracked, illuminating the room in stark white flashes, as if the heavens themselves demanded truth. Poirot paced before the hearth, his compact frame casting an elongated shadow that danced mockingly. "We have unravelled threads, the forged letter, the ciphered journal, the gramophone wails. But the tapestry, it is incomplete. The ghost of Lady Arabella. A fabrication, engineered with cunning props to conceal avarice." He paused, his green eyes sweeping the assembly. "Consider the apparitions, translucent, gliding, impossible, no. Yet, with mirrors angled just so, and wires pulled from hidden alcoves, a mortal becomes spectral." To demonstrate, Poirot gestured to a nearby alcove, where Tom, under instruction, tugged a concealed cord. A panel slid open, revealing a system of pulleys and reflective glass. In the storm's erratic light, a hazy figure shimmered briefly in the corner, eliciting gasps. "See? The lady in white, merely an accomplice in gauze, projected through vents and passages, the vanishings, sleight of hand, aided by the estate's labyrinthine secrets." Harrington leaned forward, thunder punctuating his words. "But who? For what purpose?" Poirot's moustache twitched with satisfaction. "Ah, my lord, the motive. It is as old as Eden. Greed. The journal hinted at Arabella's jewels, buried in the crypt. Someone digs, masks it with hauntings to empty the house at night." Eyes darted to Croft, who shrank back. "Not I alone. Graves knew of the passages." Graves stiffened. "Only to maintain them, madam. I never—" "Enough," Poirot interjected. "The deceptions layer like onion skins, but peel them, and we find a secondary plot, a poisoned chalice, quite literally." He produced a silver goblet from his pocket, retrieved earlier from the dining hall. "This, used at dinner last eve. A faint residue, arsenic, detected by my portable kit. Not enough to kill outright, but to sicken, to drive you, my lord, to despair, perhaps to flee the estate." Harrington paled, recalling his recent malaise. "Poison? By whom?" Poirot's gaze fixed on Eliza. "Mademoiselle, your locket, engraved with M.H., Miriam Harrington, your aunt. You wore it to honour her, oui? But the poison, it echoes Arabella's fate, a widow wronged." Eliza's defiance crumbled. "Uncle, Aunt Miriam discovered the treasure map in the journal. She confided in me before her death. Natural, I thought. But if poisoned—" Tom surged to his feet. "You think I did it? For Eliza's sake?" "No," Poirot said softly. "The chalice bears fingerprints. Yours, Madame Croft. You dosed it, driven by desperation. Your great-grandmother's claim to the jewels. You believed them your birthright." Croft sobbed, collapsing into her chair. "Yes, Miriam found the map, planned to sell the estate. I couldn't let her destroy our legacy. A small dose, to scare her away, but she was frail. It killed her accidentally." The room reeled. Harrington's face twisted in grief and rage. "You murdered my wife? For baubles?" justice swift as the storm. Graves restrained Croft as Harrington summoned the authorities by telephone, the line crackling amid the gale. Eliza comforted her uncle, tears mingling with rain on the panes. Tom stood, sentinel, his love for Eliza a quiet anchor. Yet Poirot raised a hand. Catharsis, oui. The widow avenged, alliances mended in shed sorrow. But the mastermind, the one who orchestrated the ghost, who evaded our nets, slips away. Lightning illuminated a figure at the window, a cloaked silhouette vanishing into the night. "There!" Tom shouted, bolting for the door. The chase erupted into the storm, wind whipping cloaks and rain stinging like accusations. Poirot, surprisingly fleet, followed the group across the sodden lawns toward the overgrown mausoleum that housed the crypt. Mud sucked at boots, thunder drowned cries, but the figure, agile, desperate, reached the iron gates first. Inside the crypt, the air was tomb-cold, lanterns casting grotesque shadows on marble sarcophagi. The fugitive world, hood falling to reveal a stranger? No, Lord Harrington's distant cousin, Edmund, long thought abroad, his face gaunt with mania. "You!" Harrington gasped, arriving breathless. "Edmund, why?" Poirot, drenched but composed, stepped forward. "Monsieur Edmund Harrington, the overlooked heir. You returned in secret, allied with Croft for the treasure, the ghost? Your ruse, using her knowledge of passages, the poison, her hand, but your whisper." Edmund sneered, spade in hand beside a half-dug grave. "Arabella's. The jewels are mine. Reginald squandered the fortune. I deserved it all." In the melee, Edmund lunged, but Tom tackled him, the spade clattering. Graves secured him with ropes from the groundskeeper's kit. Poirot examined the unearthed chest. Glittering gems, Arabella's legacy intact. "The evasion ends," Poirot declared. "Your footprints in the attic dust, mismatched to others. The wire grease on your gloves, hidden in your valise. The little grey cells, they miss nothing." As constables arrived, summoned earlier, Edmund was led away, cursing the storm that had betrayed his flight. The household, battered but unbroken, returned to the manor. Harrington clasped Poirot's hand. "You've saved us from ghosts and greed." Poirot bowed. "Justice, my lord, is its own reward." But one revelation remains, for the dawn. The storm abated to a drizzle, the estate standing resilient. Fractured bonds began to heal. Harrington blessed Eliza and Tom's union, promising them a share of the reclaimed fortune. Graves and Croft, her crime confessed but mitigated by remorse, faced judgment with dignity. Yet, as Poirot gazed from the library window, a final echo lingered. The mastermind unmasked, but the crypt's deeper shadows hinted at one last twist, propelling toward dawn's ultimate unveiling. The night waned, deception's veil thinning, and Hercule Poirot savoured the symphony of resolution amid lingering intrigue. Chapter 5. The veil lifted. The first blush of dawn crept over the Devonshire moors like a tentative promise, banishing the storm's remnants and gilding the estate in soft golden hues. Greenhill Manor stood resilient against the light, its granite facade no longer ominous, but merely weathered by time's indifferent hand. Inside, the household stirred with a fragile hope. The knight's arrests, Croft for her unwitting poison, Edmund for his orchestration of terror, leaving a void that begged for final closure. Hercule Poirot, ever the early riser, had not slept. His little grey cells churned through the hours, piecing the last fragments of the puzzle in his guest chamber, where the fire's embers glowed like dying stars. A knock echoed, Graves bearing a tray of café au lait and croissants, procured from who knows where in this English wilderness. "Sir, the constables have taken Croft and Master Edmund. but Lord Harrington requests your presence in the crypt. He says there's more." Poirot's moustache curled in approval. "Ah, Graves, your intuition serves you well. The veil lifts fully this morn. Lead on." They descended into the estate's underbelly, the air growing cooler and thicker with each step down the spiral staircase. The crypt, illuminated by lanterns hung hastily the night before, revealed its macabre splendour. Rows of sarcophagi etched with Harrington crests, marble angels weeping eternally, and the disturbed earth where Edmund's spade had clawed at Arabella's tomb. The chest of jewels lay open, its contents, diamonds like frozen tears, rubies pulsing with inner fire, scattered in the scuffle. Harrington awaited, dishevelled but resolute, flanked by Eliza and Tom. Monsieur Poirot. Edmund confessed much in the night, his alliance with Croft, the rigged hauntings to drive me mad and claim the estate. But he swears ignorance of one thing, the spectral glove found in the gallery, and a footprint that doesn't match his boots. Poirot nodded, his eyes gleaming. Précisément. The heart of the deception beats still. Gather close, mes amis. We corner the elusive not with force, but with logic's unyielding grip. He knelt by the unearthed soil, his gloved fingers sifting through clumps. Observe, the footprint narrow, with a peculiar wear on the heel, as if from one who limps slightly. Not Edmund's sturdy tread, nor Tom's heavy boots. And the glove? White silk, embroidered with A.H. Arabella Harrington? No, sniff it. Faint lavender, the same as Mrs. Croft's sachets, but stained with grease from the wire mechanisms. Graves shifted uneasily, his limp more pronounced in the chill. "Sir, surely not." Poirot rose, pacing the crypt's confines like a caged panther. The scheme was a desperate heir's folly, oui. Edmund, overlooked in the will, returned from abroad to seize what he deemed his. He enlisted Croft, preying on her ancestral grudge, to stage the ghost, mirrors for apparitions, gramophone for laments, passages for vanishings, the poison, her hand to weaken you, my lord, but Edmund's whisper in her ear. Eliza gasped. "But the journal, it vindicated the loyal servant." "Indeed," Poirot continued, his voice a symphony of revelation, "yet layers remain. This mismatched footprint leads us to the true architect. Not Edmund, the puppet, but one who pulled strings from within." All eyes turned to Graves, who backed against a sarcophagus, his face ashen. "Impossible! I've served faithfully." Poirot's finger jabbed like a rapier. "Faithful? To whom, mon ami? You're limp, from the war, you claim. But inspect, the wear is fresh, exaggerated for sympathy. The glove, yours, hidden in the vents after a botched haunting. And the heirlooms? Not vanished for treasure alone, but to fund a scheme grander, forging documents to insert yourself as a lost Harrington bastard, claiming the estate through blood." Harrington reeled. "Graves, my father's byblow?" Poirot produced a crumpled paper from his pocket, the forged letter from Chapter 2, now cross-referenced with the journal. The cipher revealed not just jewels, but a scandal. Your grandfather sired a child with Arabella's maid. Graves, your half-uncle, hidden in service. He discovered this in the attic relics, allied with Edmund to amplify the hauntings, planning to betray him once the fortune surfaced. Graves crumpled, defiance shattering. "Yes, all those years, polishing silver while they feasted. The jewels were my birthright. Edmund was a fool. I rigged the wires, planted the clues to frame him eventually." Tom lunged, but Poirot halted him. "No, justice, not vengeance. The constables wait above." As Graves was led away, shackled by his own deceptions, the crypt exhaled its burdens. Harrington knelt by the chest, restoring the jewels to a velvet pouch. Monsieur Poirot, you've dismantled the facade utterly. The manor's ghosts laid to rest. Poirot bowed modestly. The human spirit haunts itself with greed and secrets, but logic illuminates all. Upstairs, in the morning room bathed in sunlight, the household mended rifts over breakfast. Harrington, grief softened by truth, divided the fortune. A portion to Eliza and Tom for their future, another to charity in Miriam's name, the rest to preserve Greenhill. No more shadows, he declared, only light. Eliza embraced her uncle. And Croft? Her remorse? Perhaps leniency? Harrington nodded. A reduced sentence, for her confession aided us. Tom, ever practical, grinned. I'll mend the passages, seal them for good. As farewells loomed, Poirot packed his valise, George awaiting with the car. But one last thread. In the gallery, he paused before Arabella's portrait. Her eyes, once accusatory, now seemed at peace. Adieu, madame, your lament silenced. Harrington clasped his hand at the door. You've renewed us, Poirot. The estate stands whole. The detective smiled faintly. It is the order I restore. Symmetry in chaos. The Rolls-Royce purred down the lane, moors unfolding in crisp autumn splendour. Poirot gazed back at Greenhill, its turrets proud against the sky. No whispers echoed, no shadows lingered. The mysteries resolved in logic's symphony. Heirlooms restored, rifts healed, deceptions banished. As London beckoned, Poirot stroked his moustache, content. Another enigma conquered, the world a touch more rational. Yet, in his dreams that night, a faint lavender scent wafted, a reminder that some veils, though lifted, leave echoes. But for Greenhill, the dawn had truly broken, unmarred and eternal.